I don't know specific facts. I'm sure he could have been at that age.
Right.
But if Nikolas Cruz was a senior, you got, what's the guy's name? Mark Schaefer, who stated certain things and lost his son. Again, condolences. But how many times have those people in the audience as parents, how many times have they seen Nick in school? Is Majority Stoneman Douglas that big of a school where you missed him? How many times has the kids talked about him and seen him and haven't said anything? Not saying that we're justifying it, but we are not going to sit here and ignore, just like Christina said, her son being bullied. Bullying is a cause that triggers stuff like this to occur.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question. And
it's attacking children in the foster care system with mental health issues.
Yes.
And it's putting a blanket over any child that has suffered any of those words being mentioned in a sentence. It automatically gives a negative connotation and puts your head somewhere. Just like if I mentioned I have DID, everybody automatically goes to the movie Split, which is totally off the reservation. So it's this widespread ideal of, yes, they are absolutely valid in their anger. They are valid in the pain and the anguish that they feel, and that they didn't get the suffering and the outcome that they felt was deserved for their pain and suffering. And yeah, I wonder if they have the ability to take a step back from that pain and see it from a different perspective, a different exposure.
Well, and I was going to say, Jen, kind of going off what you're saying, when the one victim who wasn't there but had to speak, and they spoke through the advocate, she talked about all the things that she has to deal with now. And said she can't go into rooms without knowing where to go. Anytime she hears noises, she can't, like her sounds like her going out and about in the world has been pretty much destroyed based upon the things she's suffering trauma-wise, which I don't doubt that could have happened. Like, I fully, that sounds like a very reasonable a result of being put through all that. But I know her answer is going to be, don't look at me like I'm an emotional IED sitting there waiting to explode. But yet that's what they just did to Nikolas Cruz.
Yeah.
They sat there and dogged on him. And it's like, you just came in and laid out all the issues you got now. And then you're going to come in there and say, oh, but what he had doesn't count. It was rough for everybody. Now it's rough for us.
Call me a victim, but don't treat me like a victim.
Yeah. Yeah. And
and the judge allowed that, by the way.
Well, but they are allowed to dog the defendant. Now, I will say this much as a defense attorney, them crying at the defense like that is like blaming that cornerback for catching that interception. Like, why aren't you turning around looking at the prosecutor saying, like, you guys had it made. It was yours to lose. Why didn't you bring home the dub? To sit there and scream at the defense attorneys because they brought home the dub. They brought home the win.
They did.
I mean, that's not, that's their job.
That is their job.
And if Nikolas Cruz was their kid, they would be crying tears of joy that he got life instead of the death penalty.
Yeah.
And that seems to be overlooked.
And that nonsense about, like, talking about their kids. Like, I hate to say it like this, but if that's how you're going, I don't know if, like, how better off would your kids be with you right now? Because you were that person back then, too. You were that vile, nasty.
Yeah.
You were that scumbag of a human being back then. Like that last guy that talked. And I could say, because I'm a fat guy, that big fat guy talking about this or that. It's like, I'm not sure how, like, you being this living, visceral, disgusting Karen. and the way you talk about stuff, I'm sure you probably weren't much different.
Well, Sean, that you're just hitting what I was thinking when I heard a lot of them speaking. I was saying to myself, well, you guys are the family of the victims, but we don't know you as a person. We don't know your backstory. We don't know if you were good people or bad people.
Well, I
from what
assume
you
you're
guys
not,
are
because
saying, it
that's what
doesn't
you're
sound
showing.
like you are very compassionate people.
Yeah.
So I had mixed feelings, but I'm glad that that man that spoke on the attorneys on the defense said to the judge that he wanted them to stop allowing these people to say such hateful things toward his attorneys, which I agreed with him. And I'm glad that he spoke up for his attorneys because it wasn't right. And the judge just dismissed him the way she did, disrespectful to him. I felt like, wow.
Yeah,
that's
that was an ongoing thing though throughout this judge had no love lost for them. But yeah, like especially that one guy with the slicked hair and the nice suit when he came out and gave his really good speech. Like Mike, you remember I was just losing it on that guy when I was sitting at stoplights and messaging in. Like that guy, I guarantee you, like had his kids never been killed, I guarantee you he is some sort of top tier douchebag in his life in general. Dude. Like you don't suffer the trauma and then become this, that doesn't change you. The trauma just magnifies the flaws you have.
Yes,
it's always been my experience. But
can we juxtapose that against the? Go ahead. I'm
that
sorry.
anger transfers to the children, and I kind of wonder how many of those kids had some bully streaks in them because they picked up that behavior from their parents and they thought that the behavior was okay.
I wouldn't even go that far. I just wonder how many of those kids are treated like crap by their parents.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Not necessarily that they treated Nikolas Cruz bad, but just how many of those kids were getting rode hard by their parents. Because I could say in my life, I'm very fortunate. I haven't had to go through some of the things you guys have been through.
And that's what I'm saying.
But I've been able to see it.
As a mother, as a human being, I was trying to have compassion for the families of the victims. But as I was hearing them speak on their feelings about Cruz, I could not agree with them anymore. I could not have compassion for them because what they were saying is just evil and hateful. And I didn't think that it was okay for them to. I get when they say the witnesses have the right to say what they want to say. I get that. I've been a victim. My father was murdered, and I've been through a lot of other stuff. But for the judge to say it's okay for them to say what they want because the defense was sticking the finger up during, the trial, or they were acting out of character. That two wrongs don't make a right, and she's the judge. She should have done her job way better. I think she failed. And I think that these people, I don't know them personally, but when they started to speak on how they felt about the whole situation, one, they don't get it and they don't have compassion, and so does arrogance. In my eyes, I don't see them as good people either.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, I got to bounce.
Agree. They had arrogance about them, that they were the victims, but heaven forbid you treat them like a victim, and that their anger and their feelings and their opinions should override what our democracy states. And in our democracy, it states that a jury gets to decide. How much is that? A jury of his peers, of their peers, and the fact that they're blaming the defense team, it's their job. Like, what is he supposed to just sit there at a table and take everything and not have a defense team? He pleaded guilty. And what scares me is that the arrogance that they have of they've been wronged all over again, and how dare the jury and the defense team do this to them. It scares me of what they're going to do, or what that arrogance is going to turn into, and then take things into their own hand. Because as we've seen over the past 6 years, the theme is, well, when the system fails, we take things into our own hands and we deal with them ourselves.
Yes.
But it's
well,
like,
I do want to at least fight for one of the victim impact statements that
sure.
the lady that was from Great Britain who lost her child, she did have a very good statement, and I happened to be on, I think it was Crime and TV stream at the time, and the comments there were, why does she have to make this a political argument? Why should she be talking about politics? What does this have to do with any of it? It's like,
got everything
part of the political. I mean, like, come on, like,
yep.
I just couldn't understand the logic of some of the commenters to think that a person who is actually trying to come up with a very cogent reason to explain what's going on in an impact to her life from a stance of, I understand what it takes to raise a child, and my child was dang near perfect, because she talked about how perfect her child was with some of the testing and stuff like that. But I just couldn't rectify it. I'm like, where is the solution then with that logic? That you can snuff out her testimony, what she has to say, but then applaud all these other ones. I didn't get it.
But Nikolas Cruz could have been a Daryl Brooks talking about subject matter jurisdiction, interlocutory appeals. So,
let's not go there, man. I had a good time with that case. That's a totally different thing. But he could have been driving through a parade. You're right. He could have been driving.
He could have been. And the thing is, we're not trying to compare that one is better or worse than the other. But one thing that I definitely would say, and then I'll open it up for you all for final thoughts, is that I wonder now, will they go back, because school is in session right now, will they go back and pay attention to the Nikolas Cruzes that are still at Parkland High School? Oh,
you want an answer to that?
Oh, yeah. Are you going to go back and pay attention to the ones that no one pays attention to? Are you going to teach other people, hey, let's be kind to others and try to help others? Are you going to teach this community, or is it really a community of the haves, and put those foster adoptive kids in this corner and ignore them? Because that's how you get another Nikolas Cruz again.
Do you want a response? I'm having a hard time responding.
It doesn't have to have a response.
I think the question for me is, were any of those parents sane or involved in the community before it happened to their kids?
I will tell you, as a person
what's their involvement now?
Who lives in Miami and has been in Broward County several times, including that area. It really depends. It really depends on the area. And when it comes to Parkland, I don't believe many of the folks in that area care about other folks. They care about themselves. I mean, that's
clear. That was clear to see.
It, right? Mm-hmm.
And that's a big problem with America today.
Absolutely, Heinz. And that's why I really appreciate your comments too. I really feel like this is a discussion of how do you make perspectives come back to a societal norm that says, hey, I have a different perspective than you, but that's fine. We can still support this idea. We can still do this from each other's perspectives.
And
we can still kind of compromise.
Because when Mary came on, everybody thought that she was, and I was like, nope. If the one thing I learned in my experience, do not respond to an opinion you don't agree with. Let it sizzle, let it sit, because we're gonna find some common ground in this.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, brother. We can make a way out of no way, right?
My God, that was amazing. Christina, Jen, Hines, Ken, potentially criminal, Sean, Mary Jane, and everybody in the comments. Shanice, you all have been awesome. Final thoughts. Go.
Thank you for allowing us to share our opinions and beliefs. I appreciate everyone that came on here. I learned a little bit from everyone, and thank you guys for sharing as well. And thank you for being a foster parent. When I used to be a foster advocate when I was in the system. I used to advocate for foster youth, that the importance of getting adopted when we get into the system, instead of being passed around from house to house to house. So thank you for